When to fish buzzbaits. A lot like I talked about a minute ago, a lot of people don't start throwing buzzbaits early enough. And me, myself, there's certain conditions I look for early in the year to be able to start throwing buzzbaits. A lot of times, a lot of people don't realize it, but you won't get a lot of bites on a buzzbait early in the year. Say, I like it when the water temperature, I'm going to say something crazier, and you're going to like, no way, 50 degrees. Sometimes that 49, 50, that 50 to below 55, that 50 to 55 degree range. A lot of times them females will come up and they're feeding and they're so shallow, you don't get a lot of bites, but when you get bit, it's the ones you want. They're big ones. And I'll go into the blade combinations a little bit later, but a lot of things to pick or what I'm throwing, when I'm throwing. The bluegill spawn's a big deal. I'll go into later on. When I like to go to a horny toad once the bluegill start spawning. I like using the horny toad instead of using a skirt. Early in the year, I like using a skirt because it's a little bit bulkier. It comes to the water a little bit easier. The blade, I'll go into the blade combinations here in a minute. The places I like to fish a buzzbait, it's seasonal. Like early, like I said, when the water's real cool like that, you got those females are coming in. They're coming in to spawn. They're feeding up. They're getting on the flats, like especially on the Tennessee River. You're wanting to fish really flat stuff where they're coming into these bays to spawn. They'll come up at home. They'll feed real good, and they'll look for their places that they're gonna nest, and then they'll kind of back out, and they kind of go dormant. They don't feed, but while they're up there looking, a lot of times I catch them on a trap, but a lot of times the bigger ones you can catch them on a buzzbait. I'll go over the equipment, the buzzbait types, and there's a lot of modifications. People think you just pull a buzzbait out of the pack and you throw it. Well, there's certain things you can do to it to make it perform better, and I'm probably going to show you something here in a minute you've never even thought of on a buzzbait, but there's all different kind of types, so we'll get into that here in just a minute. So done went over that, but another big thing that a lot of people don't really pay attention to is bubble trails. Anybody ever been throwing a buzzbait and it starts leaving a trail behind it, like bubbles behind it? You ever notice that you catch more fish when it leaves bubbles behind it? And I can't explain what there is to that or why it is or what makes that happen, but it seems like everywhere I go and I'm fishing a buzzbait, and it'll make those bubbles in cold water. If it's making those bubbles, to me, it's buzzbait water. I don't know why that is. It's one of them phenomenons I can't explain. It's just, if it's leaving a bubble trail, I'm getting excited. Buzzbait types and modifications. There's different types. Early in the year, like I said, I like to go with a skirt, and this right here is, and I like to use a smaller buzzbait. Like this one right here is an 1/8 or a 1/4, and you want to use a bigger blade because that bigger blade, what it is, it allows you to throw it out there, it allows you to wind it slower and keep it up on top and keep it in the strike zone longer. There's all kinds of modifications to a buzzbait. A lot of people just pick it up, throw it out of the pack, and you may not be able to see this. To me, there's two different types of buzzbait blades. There's a double hinge where the wire doesn't even touch the blade, and then you got a line through double hinge where it runs through the center of the blade. And the one that runs through the center of the blade is pretty much bulletproof. There's nothing really that you can do to it other than on all my buzzbaits, I always make sure that you got this rivet at the bottom. I always look at it, I'll make sure that rivet, I'll take my pliers and I'll make sure that rivet touches. Make sure it always hits flat on that rivet. And then I'll also take my pliers and I'll crimp this rivet so it doesn't spin. Because if it spins, it doesn't let that rivet and the blade hit together. They turn in sequence. Whereas if it's just sitting still, like on a good buzzbait day on a dual hinge blade like this, I'll burn a blade off in one day. I'll eat through it, and I'm going to show you how I eat through it here in just a second. But as far as the line through, it's pretty simple. It's bulletproof. There's really hardly nothing you can do to that. You can't really get in there to grind the wire to make it squeal. Whereas on a double hinge blade, you can pull it up. You can take your file and you can file this wire with a file. And what that does, it allows it to makes a squealing noise. For some reason, squealing buzzbaits catch more fish. Horny toad versus skirts. I'll use a skirt up until the bluegill start spawning. And once the bluegill start spawning, I switch to a horny toad. And the reason for that being is to me a horny toad looks more like a bluegill fleeing than a skirt on a buzzbait. And there's only there's two colors I throw all the time, and then one some of the time. White and black. That's it. Some days on a cloudy day I'll use a white. On bright days I'll use black. That sounds the exact opposite of what you need to do, but for some reason they eat the white better when it's cloudy than they do the black. And if it's a real predominant bluegill spawn, I would go with a green pumpkin or a watermelon red. That seems to work. And I might dye the tips of the chartreuse a little bit, but it's kind of bulletproof. And the other thing with the horny toad,
Welcome to Bass University TV, an online video training course where you'll learn champion bass fishing techniques from pro anglers Pete Glusek, Mike Iaconelli, and their talented special guests. From on the water to in the classroom, you'll learn sound techniques and strong fundamental bass fishing skills. Watch hours of video content on multiple topics at your own pace for a low monthly fee. Cancel at any time. Information is power in the sport of fishing, so learn from the very best. Subscribe to Bass University TV today.